Welcome back to BNC. You are watching live pictures from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. on this historic day as hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as the Senate Judiciary Committee considers her nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court, the first black woman who would be submitted for that and who would be sitting on the court if she's confirmed. Once again, we've been covering this for you from day one, and you can see they are starting to reconvene. They've been on a 30-minute break as she has been under constant questioning from senators, both Democratic and Republican. And we are joined now by our panel to discuss some of what we've been hearing over these last 3 days. I'd like to bring in attorney Terrence Evans. We're also joined by Kieran Young, a political strategist. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We've been hearing a lot of grilling. Earlier, Judge Jackson was grilled on her stance on law enforcement. Let's take a listen to that, and I'll have you both react after.
I grew up with family members who put their lives on the line. I understand the need for law enforcement, the importance of having people who are willing to do that important work, the importance of holding people accountable for their criminal behavior. I also, as a lawyer and a citizen, believe very strongly in our Constitution and the rights that make us free. And what that means to me is an understanding that although we need accountability, although there is crime, we also have a society that ensures that people who have been accused of criminal behavior are treated fairly. That is what our Constitution requires. That is what makes our system so exceptional.
And I'd like to welcome to our panel Prosecutor Marie Pereira as well to join us in this discussion. Kieran, I want to start with you to respond to that, what we just heard Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson saying.
Well, what we just heard Judge Jackson say is that she believes in law enforcement, she believes in the rule of law, and that the Republicans are basically just running around in circles trying to make it seem like she's going to let every single person out of prison. She's been very, very tough on crime in the DC court. She told a story about a young man who robbed the same pharmacy twice, or made an attempt to, and was caught and subsequently sentenced because he menaced the establishment. I think what we're seeing from Republicans right now is them trying to use dog whistles, them trying to rally their base for a midterm election, and really just using a black woman as a piñata in order to, score political points. And it's outright disgusting and racist.
And Marie, this next one is for you. Judge Jackson was also very vocal over sentencing in courts. Take a listen to this.
And so what my being here, I think, is about, at some level, is about the progress that we've made in this country in a very short period of time, I would say. It seems like a long time, but one generation, we've gone from the reality of my parents' upbringing to the reality of mine. And I do consider myself, having been born in 1970, to be the first generation to benefit from the civil rights movement, from the legacy of all of the work of so many people that went into changing the laws in this country so that people like me could have an opportunity to be sitting here before you today. Our Constitution is designed to ensure that the government affords due process to people who are being accused of crimes. And one might think it's even more important in a way in a case in which someone is so reviled. It's kind of like the First Amendment. It's a protection for unpopular views. It's needed when there's a chance that the government will suppress or, do something that's untoward. And so in the criminal justice system, we have many, many amendments that are designed to make sure that unpopular people, people who are accused of doing terrible things, are still treated fairly by the government. And that's a limitation on government power, which is the framework of our Constitution. It is about limiting government overreach.
Marie, did she handle that response? Did she get her point across there?
She handled it with exactness, that she should say that we've come a long way and that unpopular people deserve a chance under our Constitution at justice. And coming from her, an African-American woman sitting in front of the court and being considered for the highest position as judge in this nation, it's chilling to me, because in 1855, a little girl named Celia went before a Missouri court because her owner raped her. And they said she couldn't claim self-defense because rape laws only applied to women, not property. And she was convicted and they hung her. So it gives me chills that this little girl right now is sitting before the court talking about what justice means. I'm proud.
Yeah, I think we're all getting those chills, Marie, honestly. Terrence, I want to ask you your thoughts about how the civil rights movement is contributing to what we're seeing here today. Again, a historic day, Terrence. We certainly can't say that enough. What led us to this point and what we're seeing in this woman here, what she represents and how she's representing, so many people. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I've been so proud watching these hearings and the acknowledgement of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, of all those who came before her and paved the way to make it possible for her and so many others in the legal community, but just throughout society, to benefit from all of those many sacrifices. And she has not forgotten where she came from. She has not forgotten about those who paved the way. She talked about Constance Baker, who was one of the first federal court judges, African-American women federal court judges. So the way that she has handled this pressure with grace and dignity, kept her cool, and focused on her judicial philosophy is something that all of us can be proud of. And also in that last answer, she acknowledged that there is systemic racism, but acknowledged that the Constitution is such that it can be interpreted in a way that all of our rights can be protected. And that is what she intends to do when she makes it to the high court.
And we're taking live pictures right now of Capitol Hill. Once again, they're in a 30-minute break, but you can see that room. Imagine sitting there with all those people listening and watching your every move and every sound you make. And Kieran, you have quite extensive background with campaigns and public policy, that sort of thing. We're hearing within these questions many social issues, perhaps political issues. Tell me your thoughts on what you're seeing here. Are there indeed senators who are setting things up for the midterms or perhaps interjecting political issues? What are your thoughts on what you're hearing in the line of questioning?
Well, as someone who sat in that very hearing room and listened to senators grandstand and try to run for president, I do see people setting themselves up to run for either president or maybe governor or other offices in their states, and trying to get that bigger platform, trying to get a hold of that Trump base. I saw John Cornyn hammering away on abortion, asking basically Roe v. Wade questions. You see other senators like Hawley and other Republican senators just banging on things like critical race theory and, trans issues. I really do believe that they are trying to draw a line in the sand on social issues around the midterms to fire up the quote unquote Trump base in order to get those people out to vote. for them so that they can hold on to or take control of the Senate. I think the battle for the Senate is on, and the Republicans are very aware of it, and they are trying to create the energy that they're going to need to fundraise from their base and to drive their base out to vote. And they know that their base votes on the Supreme Court in a way that the Democratic Party doesn't.
Marie, at one point we heard her being asked, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect of whether or not she knew the definition of a woman or what a woman was. What do you make of that, Marie?
It's grandstanding. And what it is, again, they're preparing for the elections. They want to bring up every hot topic issue, and they're using this as a platform for what it shouldn't be used for, because this is a confirmation hearing to see if she's qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. And we already know she's overqualified. Thankfully, we don't need their votes because she is going to be appointed as the next Supreme Court justice. Her record stands on its own. She is more than qualified for this job, and they know this. It's grandstanding. That's all it is. Theater.
All right, panelists, we appreciate your time. Of course, we're keeping an eye live on Washington right now. Thank you so much for joining us, and we, of course, will catch up with you later. We have some breaking news, however, to share with you right now. Madeleine Albright, the first woman to be Secretary of State, has died. She was 84 years old. Albright helped establish Western foreign policy after the Cold War. She was a central figure in President Bill Clinton's administration, first serving as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations before becoming Secretary of State. Madeleine Albright, dead at 84. And once again, we are keeping a watch on what's happening in Capitol Hill as we are entering, this is day 3 of confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee considers her nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. We've had opening statements, questions, talks about her family life and her philosophy and methodology. Once again, they're on a 30-minute break. You can see they are starting to resume. And I want to go now to my colleague Del Walters in Washington, D.C. to continue our coverage of this historic Supreme Court nomination process. Del, when we first started here at the Black News Channel, I don't think 2 years ago, I don't think we could have imagined we would be here on this day. I am honored, as I'm sure you are, to be able to bring this to people. Such a historic day, the first African-American woman possibly potentially to be seated on the U.S. Supreme Court, Del.
You know, Laverne, and by the way, thank you for the break. I can only imagine what it feels like to be Judge Jackson. She has now been in the hot seat now going on 18 hours, which is, if you think about it for a job interview, unprecedented. But it is an important job. It is a job that she will hold on to for the rest of her life, and she is making history. And think about the baton that is being passed in a strange way today, that she is now poised to become the nation's first African-American female Supreme Court justice on a day that we lose Madeleine Albright, the nation's first female Secretary of State. We talk about this country in terms of the milestones that have been achieved, but we forget sometimes the ones that have yet to be achieved. Imagine, if you will, 233 years before there is an African-American woman on a Supreme Court. And it is a Supreme Court that has decided things, for instance, such as what rights do women have? What rights do African Americans have? When is an African American part of the United States? Because when this country was founded, all men are created equal, did not, belong to us. So when we think about just how much has changed in this country and how much there still is to change, it is fascinating to watch it from this standpoint, Laverne.
Absolutely, Del. And we're going to take a quick break here and come back with more on this historic day. Ketanji Brown Jackson answering questions from the Senate. Stay with us. This is BNC.